The first standard that we were going to look at is Standard 6, which states, understand major developments in the history of the United States from pre-colonial times to the present. Now, the first part of this is asking to demonstrate knowledge of indigenous people before the arrival of the Europeans. So what the task is asking you to do is to demonstrate how Native Americans lived before the Europeans came along, and to discover what the Native American lifestyle was like, and to apply concepts of indigenous people and migration and how it affected America today. The second part of this standard is asking to describe European exploration and the settlement of North America. So the task that I took out of this standard was to describe how the Europeans explored North America, describe how the Europeans settled in North America, research what things that the Europeans found in North America, and identify how the Europeans discovered North America. The next part of the standard is saying to analyze the causes and effects of the Revolutionary War. And the task that I took out of that was to analyze what the causes and effects of the Revolutionary War are, research facts about the Revolutionary War, distinguish what gathered from the Revolutionary War, discover what the key concepts of the war are. The next one says to recognize key developments in the formation of the national government. And I took from that we need to research why the national government was formed. Was there any kind of formation or development that built up to the national government? The next one says to examine the origins and events of the Civil War. And I think this one is pretty lengthy, but the task that I pulled out of that was to discover what the causes are of the Civil War and research events that happened during the Civil War, research what the Civil War brought for America, and maybe construct a timeline of events. And all these websites right here, there's one at the top that's timelines, and it's really great for this one. The next says to analyze issues associated with Reconstruction, and the task there that I pulled out of this was to analyze issues that came about with the Reconstruction period and to research different facts about the Reconstruction period just to catch up on that, because I feel like you need to have a good base on the Reconstruction period in order to know this one. The next one is to demonstrate knowledge of the settlement of the West. And the task that I pulled from that was to demonstrate knowledge of the Western settlement. So all these websites right here are really great for this. And then we have good content right here about the Western settlement, which you can read about, and it gives you some dates and everything. And the next one is analyze the transformation of the United States from an agrarian to an industrial economy. And for the task, I said that we need to analyze the transformation of the U.S. during the Industrial Revolution and compare and contrast the difference between the agrarian and industrial economy, just to see the difference between those two and how they possibly connect. The next one is compare the Progressive Era and the New Deal. And I said from that, obviously, to compare and contrast the Progressive Era and the New Deal. And right here, there's a link to Quizlet flashcards that are for the Progressive Era and the New Deal, which will really help with the test if you want to look over those. The next one says, demonstrate knowledge of the civil rights and women's movements. I feel like this one has a lot in it, but the task that I pulled from that was the obvious: research the civil rights and research women's movements. And up here I've included civil rights and women's movements, so you can read through those. And then the next one is analyze U.S. leadership in world affairs from the collapse of the Soviet Union to the present. And the task there was to analyze the U.S. leadership in world affairs, that could be any of them, and analyze the collapse of the Soviet Union to present day. And this last one right here, this website, gives you a great world view of the Soviet Union from the collapse of it to present day. And that was it for Standard 6.